Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this presentation is titled Air Force Pilots, Alcohol Consumption, and the O Club. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, you got a bunch of males, and back in this era, there were no female pilots. They were just starting to come in a little bit later. But when I was in pilot training and instructor back in the early to mid 70s, there were no female pilots. All the drinking involved had to do with young males. Okay, lots of testosterone and people who were just new to large bouts of alcohol consumption. What could possibly go wrong? And of course, being a true pilot, you had your drinking mug there. And see, that's mine with my name on it and stuff like that. And of course, the O Clubs were full of this. Now, at the time, the O Clubs were just O stands for officer. We had the Officers Club, the NCO Club, there for the non-commissioned officer, the sergeants and stuff like that. And sometimes they even divided that between the senior and the junior. But basically back then they didn't mix. Well, I guess there was an issue with economic viability, so a lot of times they combined it and everybody goes to the same club now. But when I was there, it was strictly officers. Okay, well, they're trying to be respectable. They're trying to have family fun type of events and various things. And I don't want to get in trouble with the censors, but they actually had some adult entertainment of both sexes in our O Club, and there were some interesting tales there, but I don't think I can get that past the censors. But that's a story for another time, if ever. But anyway, we would have nice formal events there, respectable type of things. And, you had to watch your alcohol consumption, of course, because as we all know, alcohol reduces inhibitions, and sometimes that can be not a very good thing at all. And we had one dining in, they were called. It's a formal thing. I had to buy a winter dress outfit, tux sort of thing, and it was for this one event. Normally we could wear our Class A uniforms, but this we had to be formal because the wing commander was a friend of a very prominent member of the Nixon administration. So we were ordered. Everybody on the base, all the pilots, all the officers were ordered that you will come to this because he needed it, I guess, as a fundraiser. He was having some, who knew, legal issues and needed the money, so he was ordered to come. Now, I don't remember for absolutely sure which of the Nixon administration people he might have been, but I think he was Haldeman. And he comes, and of course, I'm in this. I'm way far back. It kind of went by rank, I guess, and I'm towards the back. But he gets up there, and like I said, he's friends with the wing commander. He starts talking about, and he uses the wing commander by first name, something we didn't do, of course, being a full bird colonel and us being lieutenants. But he says, I'll say Sam. Sam said, much come and give a talk. And so I'm thinking, what should I talk about? Should I talk about my military career or should I talk about my political involvement? And all of a sudden, halfway between me, like I said, this kind of went by rank at the time, halfway between me and the front full row of the high ranking officers on base, this hand goes up. This hand goes up. Here it is. This hand goes up. And it's like, don't you understand that was a rhetorical question, not an actual question? And we'll call the guy Major Mack. Now, Major Mack was a very interesting character out there at Vance Air Force Base in the mid to early 70s. He was a section commander. And I'll call him Major Mack. That's not his real name, to protect the guilty here. But he was a bit of a character, and I found out the hard way that he was a guy that would act nice to your face and would cut you down behind your back, really for no reason at all, because I didn't do anything, I think, that really upset him. But anyway, he was an interesting character. And we had civilian, I'm digressing here a slight bit, but we had civilian crew chiefs on base, and a lot of female ones. They would guide the airplanes into parking. And during the summer, it gets hot in northern Oklahoma, and they would wear halter tops. Very nice not terribly, a lot of material, halter tops. And, well, it gets your attention, okay? And Major Mac was dating one of these young ladies, which was kind of a funny thing. But there was this one captain who filed a safety report because he thought their outfits were distracting. And, well, yes, they were. Okay, they were. I think he had a legitimate complaint. But, he filed a complaint and he got them restricted from wearing halter tops. So they could wear a t-shirt. Well, they did. And a lot of these young ladies, they were very clever. They wore a t-shirt and let's just say they didn't wear undergarments under the t-shirt, hot, sweaty, northern Oklahoma. Well, okay, that's a whole different story. Anyway, I digress there. But he was dating one of these young ladies. But anyway, the hand goes up. And he says, we don't want to hear about any of that political crap. We want to hear about you in the military. And I mean, he's swaying back and forth, and you could just see the front table, these stares of daggers at him. Yeah. But he says, Sam, he said he wanted me to talk about politics, and that's what I'm prepared to talk about. So then he goes on with it. Well, Major Mac, about halfway during the speech, he gets up and he is just staggering out of there. He is obviously 3 or 4, maybe even 5 sheets to the wind, and he goes out. Well, we heard the next morning he was in front of the wing commander, and the wing commander was not happy. He was getting a bit of a chewing out. Well, considering the fact that Major Mac wasn't especially well liked, we kind of had a little side chuckle on that. But okay, now back to bars and drinking. Okay, this is, I believe, a picture of the Vance Air Force Base bar. I didn't have any from my time back then, but I'm pretty sure it is, because who the heck would hang a model of a T-37 in a bar if it wasn't a Tweet base? Okay, well, there's, if you notice off to that direction, yeah, there's the little bell there. See, if you came into the bar and you made an infraction, if you were a nice guy and decided you wanted to buy a round for everybody, you rang the bell. But most of the time, you had committed an infraction. And like you came in and you were wearing your flight cap when you came into the bar. That was an infraction, and somebody would see it ring the bell, and you were supposed to buy a round. Now, okay, if you're following this, I am talking about Oklahoma. And this is back in the 70s, and you talk about a dry state, okay? We had the O Club where they had alcohol on base, and I'm not even sure if there were any bars in town. I don't know. I think you had, there were a lot of rules to be able to drink alcohol in an establishment, and we tended to avoid those other things like Pizza Hut or whatever. But anyway, okay, there was an issue with drinking alcohol and driving. Now, you don't drink and drive for a number of reasons. You simply don't do it. But the trouble with drinking alcohol is you kind of lose your inhibitions, you lose your judgment, and that can get you into trouble. Well, the deal was, and we were briefed on this very thoroughly, that if you get one DUI, driving under the influence, there's a lot of different initials depending on where you are and what this is, but if you get one DUI, people worked extremely hard to get that expunged from their record, because the deal was, if you got a second DUI, that it was a mandatory, I think, 1-year jail term. So it was kind of interesting. People would get one DUI, and I don't know actually anybody on base who got one, but people would get this one DUI, and they, legal fees and stuff. I mean, you're really paying for this infraction, because they did not want that any chance of getting that second one, or they were in deep trouble. So that kept the driving while intoxicated well under control. And of course, if you lived on base, you really didn't have to worry about it, other than the local police would pull you over the MPs. And I don't know how serious the infraction was on base, but I'm sure it was not good at all. I have no personal experience ever of any of this, so I'm just relating this. But let's talk about now, let's get back to drinking on, and for this example, Vance Air Force Base. Okay, well, you got these young pilots and stuff. Well, we would have get-togethers at people's houses and stuff like that, but there was a special little kind of party room off of the O Club that if you were going to have a wild party or just a party with your group, you would have it in this little facility. And our class was having a little get together. I think we were probably graduating from Tweets or something like that, and we were having a party. So they arranged to do it in this little out room. Okay, pretty basics, got a bar and stuff like that. And I'm standing there, and I am talking to one of the instructors. He had been an A-1 Sandy pilot over in Vietnam, and he is just going on and on telling me all sorts of stories about, dropping bombs and stuff like that. And you notice the fire extinguisher. I'll never get this right here. The fire extinguisher over there. Okay, never mind. The fire extinguisher over there. It was up on the wall, and it was right next to this captain who was giving me his A1 Sandy stories, okay? And I noticed one of our students who was having great difficulty in standing erect without going through various variations. He's looking at this water fire extinguisher that's on the wall right next to the captain that's talking to me. And I see him stagger over to this fire extinguisher, put his hand on top of it, and pull the pin. Well, okay, I know this is not going to end well, and as he's doing this, I am moving farther and farther back. I am probably 10 feet from the captain now, and doesn't faze him a bit. He's still telling me the story and stuff like that. And Lieutenant Rocket, we'll call him. That's kind of his nickname a little bit. Lieutenant Rocket takes the hose, picks it up, depresses the fire extinguisher, and starts spraying everybody. Well, being 10 feet away, I got a little bit away from it, but yeah, it was quite a deal. And of course, they briefed us the next day in the flight about the party, and everybody had a lot of fun. And we talked about the bar bill that we were splitting, and of course he said, our flight commander said, "Oh yeah, there's a charge for a water fire extinguisher refill. That's a little unusual to have on a bar tab." All right. The Auger Inn down in San Antonio. Now, this place was extremely well known. I mean, San Antonio is a great cross-country place to go to. The Riverwalk. I even took whole family down just to eat again at the Magic Time Machine to show the kids, because that's a real cool place down there. And, okay, this was a great place. Now, in the Enid Bar, the students would talk about D1s and D2s. And I heard them talking one time, and I go, "What's a D1? What's a D2? And they go, "Oh, we don't even ask the women in the bar if they're divorced anymore. We just ask how many kids they have." And it's like divorced with one, divorced with two kids. So that's how they reference them. Well, San Antonio was a little bit higher class. And there were a lot of very good-looking women in that bar. Of course, I was married during this entire time, so that, of course, didn't enter into my whole situation any. But for people down there, it could be very interesting. And I was going through instructor training at the time, and I had this sergeant. He was a simulator instructor, and they used sergeants to instruct in the simulators, and he lived in the same housing complex I did. I was there kind of temporarily, and he was there more permanent, but we kind of got to be friends because we had worked together, and we lived a couple doors from each other, so we got to be friends and a little bit of drinking buddies and stuff like that. And he mentioned the Auger in there when I was going through training in San Antonio, and he'd never been in it, but he'd heard a lot of really cool stuff about it. And I said, "Well, come on, I'll take you in." He goes, "Oh, I can't do that. I'm a sergeant, and that's an officers club." And I go, "Hey, it's after hours. We go in civilian clothes. Nobody'll know, and he kind of regretted it, but okay, I'll go along, because he really wanted to go along. So I take him in there, and of course, being a simulator instructor, he worked with a lot of the pilots. So this one guy comes up to us, and he's looking at him, and he goes, "Man, you look familiar." And I can see him start to get nervous. And I turned to the guy, and I said, "Did you fly 105s in Nam?" And the guy says, "No, I didn't." I said, "Well, that's not it then." And he says, "Okay, well, I'll think of it sometime." And he walked off, and my friend kind of sighed. Well, I'm sure Later, he probably did realize who the guy was. It probably came to him, but at the time, he got away with it. Now, let me talk a little bit about the O Club in the Auger Inn there in San Antonio. We got a special briefing on this. It's probably in this picture somewhere. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember well enough, but this is the central area of the base, and of course that water tower there is a, historic old. It was from the Army base that was there at first at San Antonio before it became Randolph Air Force Base. Of course, it was an Army Air Corps base at the time, and they taught in biplanes and stuff like that. So a lot of history down there. But here's the top view, and see that little center part there. Well, that's where a lot of the O Club were and the bars and stuff like that. But surrounding that inner circle is all the high-ranking individuals on base. So we were given a very stern briefing that you don't walk out of the O Club loud and drunk, because there's a lot of high-ranking officers around there who will become very upset, and it won't go well for you. All right. Now, this was back in the 70s, and you go out to Luke Air Force Base, and that's fighter country out there, okay? They had, at the time, it was an F-4 training base. And one time I go out there, and I see a whole bunch of F-4s. Now, these are the F-104s. Now, these are the F-104s with U.S. markings on them. The ones I'm talking about were the ones belonging to the German Air Force, because they trained the German Air Force people out there. And I come into Luke, and I'm taxiing, and I see all these F-104s with German markings on them, and I guess I hadn't realized this, and I'm going, did we just get invaded? But then I found out the situation. But I'll tell you what now, Nellis, no, I'm sorry, I'm sure Nellis has a good bar too. This is Luke, and Luke had really a cool bar setup. And I don't have pictures of it, but I remember that it was, the bars were below level, and it was kind of cavernous, and there were several bars. You could go from one to the next one to the next one. They were all connected, and it was just a wild time. I mean, the fighter pilots would come down there, and there aren't any. This is actually a briefing. There aren't any pitchers, beer steins in this picture. Picture, not pitcher. Okay, beer. No, I haven't had anything to drink. No, I haven't. But okay. Well, this bar was really busy, and the first time I was there, it was just a happening place, fun time. I'm having a great time. I'm visiting some of my friends at Luke, and it's just great. Well, I come back there later, and the place is absolutely empty. Now, what they had done is they had cracked down on the alcohol intake of, I guess, pilots. They'd gotten very concerned about it. So obviously what happens, they shut down the bars, basically on base. I mean, I go into the Luke bar, and it is empty, absolutely empty. And I'm talking to the bartender, it's him and me, and I'm going, where is everybody? And they go, oh, they had this alcohol crackdown, and they've all gone in town. So obviously what all the pilots did was they formed small religious groups, and they went to church in the evening instead of going out to the bars. No, they didn't do that. What they did was they found places in town that were happy to have their business, and they had a pretty good time then. And of course, I'm on base. I flew in. I'm at the BOQ. I have no transportation to go in town. My friends aren't there at this time, so I'm kind of stuck. So here I am, and the bar was a lonely place. And they're all in town, of course, having a fun time. So that was kind of the way the situation developed. And fortunately, out at Edwards, Edwards was a very unique place, and we had a very good officers club out there, and it was fun because the type of test pilots we had out there. I remember sitting down one time, and Colonel Sturmthal was there, who was a very interesting pilot. He had flown a lot of the B-58 and the B-1. He was one of the chief test pilots, and as part of the flight test, he'd got a chance to fly the Concorde. And one of the pilots made a mention about supersonic flight, and he says, "Well, when I flew the Concorde," and of course our whole group kind of went quiet and go, "When you flew the Concorde on a test flight?" Yeah, that was interesting. So that was a bar that still had a lot of history. Pancho, and I'm digressing here, the Pancho Villa Happy Bottom Riding Club was gone and stuff, but the Oak Club was fairly decent, and it was a fun time. So at least in that era, it still existed. And of course, this is 40 years ago. I have no idea what they're like now, whether they've consolidated it. But of course, you still have to be careful consuming alcohol in a military environment because, just like in in a job environment, getting a little too inebriated and losing your inhibitions can cause you a lot of career difficulties. So that's a little expose on alcohol imbibement in the Air Force with pilots. Thanks for watching.